What happens when you threaten the vulnerable in front of a combat veteran? On a crowded train, a 78-year-old disabled veteran faced a decision that would shock everyone. When attackers targeted a disabled child, decades of military training suddenly awakened. What followed was unforgettable. The Amtrak train swayed gently as it crossed state lines, sunlight filtering through dust-streaked windows. Most passengers dozed or stared at screens, sealed in private bubbles of indifference. Near the rear sat Frank Miller, 78, his weathered hands resting on a polished oak cane. Despite his advanced age, his posture remained military straight, a habit from 40 years of service. A service dog, a calm German shepherd named Ranger, lay at his feet, alert but relaxed. Frank's Vietnam veteran cap sat low over steel blue eyes that missed nothing. His left leg extended stiffly into the aisle, a permanent reminder of shrapnel from a forgotten jungle firefight. 3 rows ahead, 12-year-old Tommy Wilson sat beside his mother, Sarah. The boy's leg braces caught the sun occasionally, metallic reminders of the cerebral palsy that affected his mobility. His hands fidgeted with a well-worn action figure as his mother checked their tickets. Across from them sprawled 3 men in their 20s, bandanas partially visible in back pockets, tattoos crawling up necks. Their laughter came too loud, their movements too expansive. The leader, buzz-cut, muscled arms, kept glancing at Tommy's braces with smirking interest. Frank noticed everything. His right hand absently stroked Ranger's head, but his eyes remained fixed on the developing situation. "What's with the robot legs, kid?" The buzz-cut man leaned forward, pointing at Tommy's braces. "You some kind of cyborg?" Tommy hunched lower, clutching his action figure tighter. His mother shifted protectively. "Please don't talk to my son," Sarah said quietly. "Just asking a question." The man grinned at his companions. "Never seen someone all rigged up like that." "He has cerebral palsy," Sarah explained reluctantly. "The braces help him walk." "Bet he walks funny." Another man chimed in, mimicking an exaggerated limp that made his friend snicker. Tommy's face flushed crimson. A businessman nearby adjusted his tie, noticing the interaction, then deliberately returned his laptop. Frank's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Ranger sensed a change, ears shifting forward slightly. "Mom," Tommy whispered, "I want to go." "We can't, honey. 2 more hours till our stop." The leader stood suddenly, swaying with the train's movement. "Let's see you walk, kid. Show us how those things work." Sarah's arm wrapped tighter around Tommy. "Leave us alone. Please." No one intervened. A woman pulled her child closer. A teenager filmed discreetly. Frank's fingers stopped their rhythmic movement on Ranger's fur. His weathered face remained impassive, but something dangerous flickered behind his eyes. "I'm just curious," the leader insisted, moving to block the aisle. His friends flanked him, creating a wall of intimidation. "Stand up, cyborg boy. Show us how you walk." Tommy's eyes welled with tears. His mother's voice sharpened with fear. "Stop it. He's just a child." "A weird-looking child," the second man added, reaching toward one of Tommy's braces. "How do these even work?" Sarah slapped his hand away. "Don't touch him." The third man leaned in. "Lady's got some fight. Maybe she needs to learn some manners." A few seats back, Frank's mind shifted. Not to panic, but to the cold, methodical state that had kept him alive through 3 combat tours. His breathing slowed, perception sharpened. The train car transformed into a tactical environment. Exits, obstacles, potential weapons, civilian positions, all categorized with military precision. The memory surfaced unbidden. Quang Tri Province, 1968. A Vietnamese family cornered by drunk Marines. Frank's intervention. The court-martial he risked. Ranger sensed a change, pressing firmly against Frank's leg. The service dog's trained response to PTSD episodes. "I just want to touch those metal things," the leader slurred, fingers reaching for Tommy's leg. The boy flinched, whimpering. Frank reached for his cane. Age had stolen much, but not the core of who he was, a Marine who had sworn to protect the defenseless. His damaged leg protested as he slowly shifted forward, pain flaring with each movement. The leader grabbed Tommy's arm, yanking him forward. Stand up, robot boy. That's when Frank Miller finally spoke. Let the boy go. Frank's voice carried the unmistakable tone of command. Quiet yet absolute, the voice that had directed men through jungle warfare and urban combat. The three men turned, surprised to find the elderly veteran standing in the aisle behind them, leaning heavily on his cane. Ranger sat perfectly positioned at his side. Mind your business, Grandpa, the leader sneered, still gripping Tommy's arm. This is between us and Robo Kid. Frank didn't raise his voice. The boy's name is Tommy. He has cerebral palsy. It's a neurological condition affecting muscle coordination. His eyes narrowed slightly. And you're frightening him. The men exchanged glances, momentarily thrown by Frank's calm demeanor. How about you shuffle back to your seat before you break a hip? The second man stepped forward, intentionally bumping Frank's bad leg. Frank absorbed the impact without flinching. His weight shifted subtly, center of gravity adjusting in a way only trained fighters would recognize, minimizing vulnerability, maximizing stability. Last warning, Frank said calmly, leave the boy alone. The leader laughed, releasing Tommy to focus on Frank. Or what? You'll hit me with your cane, old-timer? By now, most passengers were watching. Some recorded with phones. No one intervened. Tommy, Frank said without taking his eyes off the men, take your mother and move 3 rows back. The boy hesitated, then pulled his mother toward the rear of the car. The leader stepped into Frank's personal space. You want to play hero? At your age? His friends moved to flank Frank, creating a triangle around him. Frank didn't retreat. His stance widened slightly, weight centered despite his bad leg. His right hand remained on his cane, left hand relaxed at his side. A fourth man, previously unnoticed in a window seat, rose silently, moving behind the confrontation. His hand slipped inside his jacket. The train lurched around a bend, lights flickering momentarily. Frank maintained perfect balance while the 3 men stumbled slightly. It wasn't luck. It was muscle memory from thousands of hours training Marines to fight in unstable environments. You should sit down, sir, Frank addressed the fourth man without turning. Before you make a serious mistake. The hidden man froze, hand still inside his jacket. The leader's eyes widened slightly. You got eyes in the back of your head. Old man? The leader tried to sound amused, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Don't need them. Frank's gaze remained steady. Your friend breathes too heavily before action. Common mistake among untrained combatants. The fourth man pulled out a folding knife, blade glinting in the sunlight. Not so smart now, are you? Passengers gasped. A woman covered her child's eyes. Tommy and his mother huddled in their new seats, the boy watching Frank with terrified fascination. Frank hadn't moved, but something had changed in his demeanor, a stillness that radiated danger. His eyes tracked microscopic movements, muscle tensions, weight shifts, pupil dilations, combat indicators taught only to elite forces. For against one elderly disabled veteran, Frank noted calmly, and you still need a weapon. The leader grew agitated. Shut up. You don't know who you're messing with. I do, actually. Frank's voice remained conversational. 3 Southside locos and 1 prospect trying to earn his place. Gang tattoos are distinctive. Their surprise was visible. How about you walk away? Frank offered quietly. No harm done. Everyone goes home. The knife wielder circled closer. No one talks to us like that. Frank sighed, not from fear, but disappointment. His mind calculated trajectories, angles, timing. The cane in his hand suddenly seemed less like a mobility aid and more like a weapon. Ranger remained perfectly still beside Frank, training overriding instinct, waiting for specific commands. The leader nodded to his knife-wielding friend. Your mistake, Frank whispered. The knife slashed forward in a practiced arc aimed at Frank's midsection. To the passengers watching, what happened next seemed impossible. Frank pivoted on his good leg, the movement so economical it barely registered. The knife cut empty air as the elderly veteran sidestepped with precision that defied his age. In the same fluid motion, his cane hooked the attacker's ankle, applying pressure to a nerve point that dropped the man to one knee. The knife clattered to the floor. What the? The leader lunged forward, throwing a wild punch at Frank's head. Frank didn't block. He wasn't there. He had shifted again, moving inside the attacker's reach. His left hand shot up, catching the man's wrist and applying a joint manipulation technique taught only to Special Operations Forces. The leader's momentum carried him forward into an immobilizing wrist lock that bent him double. "Stand down," Frank advised quietly. Instead, the third man charged, football style. Frank released the leader with a precise push that sent him stumbling into a seat. As the charging attacker approached, Frank's command came sharp. "Ranger, block." The German shepherd moved instantly, positioning himself between Frank and the attacker, not attacking, but creating an obstacle that broke the man's momentum. Frank used a split-second advantage to pivot and deliver a palm strike to the sternum. Not enough to cause damage, just enough to stop the charge. The fourth man had recovered his knife and slashed wildly. The blade caught Frank's arm, opening a 6-inch gash. Blood immediately darkened his sleeve. Passengers screamed. Tommy clutched his mother tighter. Frank's expression never changed. The wound seemed to register as merely tactical information rather than pain. With mechanical precision, he caught the knife wielder's arm mid-slice, then applied a combat control technique, fingers finding pressure points that caused a hand to spasm open. As the knife fell, Frank swept the attacker's legs while simultaneously applying downward pressure. The man hit the floor hard, breath leaving his lungs in a pained wheeze. In 30 seconds, all 4 attackers were incapacitated. Not through brutal force, but through perfectly applied technique. Frank stood in the center, bleeding but composed, his movements displaying the unmistakable efficiency of elite military training. "How?" gasped the leader from his awkward position against the seats. Frank looked down at him with calm eyes. "You picked the wrong Marine to test today." A young man in military fatigue stood from a seat, recognition dawning on his face. "Wait, are you—" Someone called a conductor. A woman's voice broke through the stunned silence. Frank straightened his Vietnam veteran cap, then signaled Ranger to return to heel position. The service dog obeyed instantly, resuming his calm demeanor despite the chaos. The 4 attackers remained on the floor, not unconscious but thoroughly subdued, each held immobile by precisely applied joint manipulations that caused pain without injury. Frank had restrained them using techniques designed to control without causing permanent damage. "Sir, you're bleeding," a middle-aged woman said, offering a scarf. Frank nodded thanks, wrapping the wound with practiced efficiency. His movements were automatic. The same field dressing technique he'd used countless times in Vietnam and later taught to thousands of Marines. The young man in military fatigues approached cautiously. "Master Sergeant Miller?" he asked, voice filled with disbelief. Frank glanced up, eyes narrowing slightly. "Lance Corporal Davis, sir. I trained under your program at Quantico in 2010. Your combat manual is still required reading for all Marine Corps combat instructors." Several passengers exchanged confused glances. "You know him?" asked a businessman who had been studiously avoiding involvement earlier. Davis straightened instinctively. "Everyone in Marine Special Operations knows Master Sergeant Frank Miller. Sir, he revolutionized our closed combat training systems, wrote the book on tactical response in confined spaces." The conductor arrived with security personnel, who quickly took control of the 4 attackers. As they were led away, the leader looked back at Frank with a mixture of fear and confusion. Finally understanding whose presence he had been in, Tommy tugged at his mother's sleeve, eyes wide. "Mom, is he really a Marine?" Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "He protected us when no one else would." Frank limped toward them, leaning more heavily on his cane now that the danger had passed. Battle focus fading. The pain of his injuries became more apparent, but his face revealed nothing. "Are you all right, son?" he asked Tommy quietly. "Sir, if you don't mind me saying," Lance Corporal Davis addressed the other passengers, "this man is a legend in the Corps." Frank's expression tightened with embarrassment. "That's unnecessary, Corporal." "With respect, Master Sergeant, it is necessary." Davis turned to the curious onlookers. Master Sergeant Frank Miller served 3 combat tours in Vietnam, earning the Navy Cross for valor. After that, he spent 30 years as the Marine Corps' foremost close combat instructor, personally training over 5,000 special operations personnel. Murmurs spread through the car. His hand-to-hand combat system is still taught to every elite unit in the military. Davis continued proudly. The techniques you just witnessed are the same ones that have saved countless American lives in combat zones worldwide. Tommy stared at Frank with wide eyes. You taught soldiers how to fight? Frank smiled slightly. Marines, he corrected gently. And yes, that was my job for many years. But you're so old, Tommy blurted, then blushed. Frank chuckled. Combat principles don't change much, son. Economy of movement. Precision, using leverage instead of strength. He tapped his temple. Up here is what matters most in a fight. Sarah wiped away tears. How can we ever thank you? Frank shook his head. No need for thanks. Protecting others is what Marines do. Is that why you have Ranger? Tommy asked, pointing to the service dog. Frank's smile faded slightly. Ranger helps me with some old war memories. We take care of each other. A passenger whispered, I can't believe a 78-year-old disabled veteran just took down 4 gang members. I can, Davis replied. In the Corps, we have a saying, Marines don't get old, they just get more dangerous. The train continued its journey, the incident fading into murmured conversations and occasional glances toward Frank. He sat beside Tommy and Sarah, Ranger resting vigilantly at his feet. The young boy couldn't stop asking questions about the Marines, which Frank answered patiently. Does your leg hurt bad? Tommy eventually asked, pointing to Frank's stiff leg. Sometimes, Frank admitted, but it reminds me I survived when many friends didn't. Tommy nodded seriously. My legs hurt too, sometimes, but Mom says pain just means we're strong enough to handle it. Frank smiled. Your mother sounds very wise. As the train reached the next station, passengers approached Frank one by one, offering thanks and respect. A society that had once rendered him invisible now saw him clearly, not as a burden, but as a guardian with hard-earned wisdom and skills. Before departing, Lance Corporal Davis shared a final thought. Master Sergeant taught me something today that wasn't in the combat manual, that true courage means standing up for others when everyone else looks away. This story reminds us how quickly we judge based on age or disability, overlooking extraordinary individuals walking among us. The next elderly person you see might be a hero with stories that would leave you speechless. Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance? Or perhaps you witnessed someone standing up for others when no one else would. Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story touched you, give a thumbs up and subscribe for more powerful true stories about everyday heroes walking among us. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the quiet veteran who prays he never has to show you why.